Hello, and welcome to the Diet NPO podcast. My name is Zach, and I'll be your host. Thanks for joining me today on this Thursday, where I'm going to have about 5 to 6 hours of tutoring here in the evening. Seems like Thursday nights are just a really hot night for tutoring because everyone's schedules tend to line up so perfectly. So this will definitely be one of those nights where I'm like making green tea while running through practice questions at the same time. So I'll definitely be multitasking. Maybe it's just an excuse to drink caffeine in the afternoon. That's why I choose to do it. But it's definitely one of those times where I'm going to be talking a lot. I'm going to need tea, water, snacks, kind of throughout the whole night, a lot of it. But since I have so many students coming up who are taking their exam within the next 1 to 2 months, I thought it'd be good to share some of my tips for exam day to try to put yourself in the best mental situation that you can to take your exam that day. Sometimes for some students, they just feel like they had a bad day, and that's why they didn't pass the exam. But I think it's more about our preparation, but it's good to put ourselves in the best position still. Starting out, the first thing that I recommend is we're going to even talk about the night before you take your exam. So we're saying the night that you go to sleep, we need to make sure we focus on good quality sleep that night. Not that the benefits of sleep actually need to be overstated. We all know sleep is necessary. But just keep in mind that 1 to 3 nights of acute sleep deprivation will lead to decreased attention, language, reasoning. You'll have poor decision-making skills, and that might actually impact your ability to take the exam. We want to put you in the best position to answer all those questions. Even if that extra hour of sleep only gets us 1 to 2 extra questions right, it's still right. It's still good for us to be going with. So that 1 hour before going to sleep, make sure you put away all your electronics, not letting any kind of blue light come into contact with you because it's going to tell your body to stay awake, and we don't want to do that. If you're someone who's always used to going to bed at midnight, 2 a.m., you might need to adjust your schedule a little bit to try to make sure that you're actually going to get quality sleep. Some people, they'll try chamomile tea, they'll try melatonin to help get to sleep, just making sure you don't overdo it so you don't wake up so groggy. Once you're up the morning of, I would recommend waking up on about your normal schedule depending on when you're actually going to take your test. You really just want to make sure you have plenty of time to wake yourself up for when you need to travel or go to your exam. That's my thought there, but sticking on your normal schedule, I think, is usually pretty good. You'd want to have enough time to be able to prepare a good breakfast or a great lunch and engaging in some light physical activity, or maybe just meeting with some friends. The goal is not to really focus your brain on just the exam, because we're trying to avoid maybe you stressing yourself out hours before the exam when you know you're already going to be stressed and anxious walking in, so we don't need to heighten that 4 or 5 hours before we actually take it. As you get closer to your exam time, you can start kind of packing your bag a little bit, putting your snacks together, maybe a nice playlist to listen to on the way there, or taking a short like mindfulness or meditation activity from YouTube. There's a lot to be said for how mindfulness can help us with our academic performance, and it's definitely not going to be a detriment to us. If anything, it's just that slow breathing will help with your level of stress for when you're going into the exam, and then you'll be a little more attentive, certainly. One of my favorite free apps that is like not too much, doesn't try to give you too much material, very straightforward, is the Koru mindfulness app. So Koru, that's one that I use during the exam because it's just free. It's quick 10-minute lessons, nothing really special there. Take time now as you're on the way to the exam to listen to that motivating playlist. Practice that clear self-talk during that time too. And with the songs, we don't want to choose anything that's hyping us up or burning all our energy, but something that you would maybe listen to really focus. One thing I used to listen to was soundtracks of movies that I really liked when I was studying. So maybe that's a good thing to listen to try to focus in your mind and just focusing on like clear, positive self-talk. More going for like that excitement instead of that nervousness. Everyone's going to be nervous going into the exam. That's okay. But you also want to feel like you're kind of excited to take it because you've worked so hard to this point. It's time for you to actually apply it, right? We can do caffeine before the exam. A lot of people will obviously do caffeine, especially if they wake up for their exam in the morning. One thing I just want to say is that we want to caffeinate but we don't want to caffeinate too much, especially if you're very sensitive to caffeine, because too much caffeine could cause too much hyperactivity, nervousness, shakiness, anxiety. So if you're really sensitive to those things, we don't want to overdo it. Just making sure you do plenty to have nice steady energy is the thought. You'll walk into the exam and you'll basically give the person your materials there, your ID, etc. And then once you sit in the chair and put your stuff in a locker, they'll call your name, imagine them calling your name, and you walk up to a palm or a fingerprint scanner. And at this stage, if you have not been given testing materials to help you with the test, such as your extra time, accommodations, but the really big things is I want you to focus on that you're supposed to be able to get a whiteboard and a small handheld calculator. I've had some students say that they were never offered these, so they never got them. And I've had some people even say they were denied these items. But most of the time, what I've heard from people is that they asked for them, and then they got these things because they're a great resource to have during the exam, especially that handheld calculator, so you don't have to use that clicky one on the screen. It'll certainly make your life a lot easier. Again, you are definitely these materials, you are entitled to them. So it's best to ask for them even if you don't use them. Then you're going to sit down at the screen and you'll be prompted with a question. And you'll be working through your strategy that you've already built up to help with dissecting that question, looking for red flags, eliminating bad answers, and ending up choosing what you feel is best. If you find that the clock is a distraction, you can choose to hide it, just making sure to maybe check it every 15 minutes or so to see how you're pacing. You're looking for about 60 seconds a question, so you just want to make sure you can get to the full 125 questions if you need to. So that's kind of my good tips for going through your exam date, what you can expect, and approaching each question. So good luck with your exam today. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to be talking a little bit about HACCP plans, just as a good little other lesson today. If you don't remember, HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. We use this in food service all the time, and this is just a type of system or procedure for evaluating and controlling food safety hazards. So get your food service cap on, get your chef's hat on, because we're going to be talking food and food safety here. Now, HACCP plans really has to do with areas where we prep food, store food, or where we're trying to ensure the greatest degree of safety with the food. There are several steps to it, about 7 steps, starting with 1, conducting a hazard analysis, where you'll evaluate each area for the amount of food risk it might have. Next, you're going to determine what we call critical control points, which every student I've met really struggles with this. A critical control point is just an area of your kitchen where there is potential risk to food safety. This could be something like a refrigerator that your cooks keep underneath the prep space. Could be an area of a critical control point, meaning, the refrigerator can break and food can go bad. Now that you've identified that, you can establish what we call a critical limit. And it's kind of like when you're at your limit with something, right? It's the max that you can handle. So it's kind of like saying, hey, we want to keep our refrigerator between 32 and 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are the critical limits of what is acceptable for that critical control point. Then you'll set up how you want to monitor that temperature. So that's like back in your food service rotation when a manager would go by, or make you even go by and write the temperature in the refrigerator or the freezer in a logbook, right? Those are kind of like your procedures for monitoring the temperature of that refrigerator. You're also going to do kind of your corrective action or establishing corrective action, which is if we check that temperature and we realize, hey, it's at 45 degrees, we need to look and say, all right, what do we need to fix in that case? Or how are we going to fix it? Are we going to move the food to another refrigerator? Are we going to put ice on everything? What are we going to do in that case? Finally, we're going to establish some verification procedures. So we're verifying that we did everything right in that case. This is like when you check the logbook and kind of do an audit of the logbook, because when someone writes all those temperatures on that log, they're then going to probably file it away somewhere in a binder. That's usually what I see. So that what happens is if someone comes to our restaurant later and says, hey, I ate here on Wednesday and I got served the fish, and I ended up getting a foodborne illness because of it. Well, we can go back kind of for liability and say, all right, all of our refrigerators were within their temperatures they should have been. Here's the temperature of the fish, here's all the things we were supposed to do to make sure of that. So that's like the big purpose of a HACCP plan. But to really get these down, I think practice questions are just definitely necessary here. So I happen to a few of these just to help warm you up into them. A written document based on HACCP principles that outlines procedures to be followed is known as a blank. Is it A, a HACCP plan, B, a HACCP system, C, a HACCP team, or D, a control point? So we're looking for a written document based on HACCP principles that outlines the procedures to be followed. What's that known as? Okay, well, if I go through each answer here, I like to think if I think of a HACCP plan, I know what a HACCP plan is. We just talked about that. That was that 7 steps there. I'm going to hold on to that. I think it's kind of a good little mindset to hold on to, at least here. The next one is a HACCP system. The HACCP system seems like it's the actual, the restaurant itself. Seems like that's the system. I'm not quite sure about that, but I'm just going to hold on to it for just a minute to see how we like it later. The other one was going to be a HACCP team. Do I think this is related to the question? I don't. I'm probably going to rule out a HACCP team because I don't think, the team is important, sure, but I don't think it's going to have anything really to do with what we're talking about for this question because we're more thinking of the other things here. Okay? Or is it going to be a control point? Now, we just talked about critical control points. That's just points in our food service system where there's going to be a risk for food safety or a risk of foodborne illness, right? So we just need to make sure that doesn't sound like it is either. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that, meaning that I'm between a HACCP system and a HACCP plan. And if I think about it, I'm probably going to say that the system, like I said, is the restaurant itself. I would probably say the HACCP plan is that written document. And so that's going to be my best fit here for what is a HACCP plan. And that's kind of that written document, written procedures based on those HACCP principles that outlines everything I'm supposed to do there. Critical control points are blank. A step at which control can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. That's a mouthful. Critical control points are a maximum or minimum value to which a biological, chemical, or physical parameter must be controlled to promote food safety. Okay. C, a biological, chemical, or physical agent that is reasonably likely to cause illness or injury. Or D, procedures followed when a deviation occurs. So when I look at each one of these things, if I look at A, a step at which control can be applied and it's essential to eliminate a food safety hazard, I believe that is a critical control point. I'm going to hold on to that and see what these other answers tell me. B says a maximum or minimum value of which a biological, chemical, or physical parameter can be in. So I told you that was our critical limits. Remember, the limit was that maximum, minimum level that it could be to be safe. So I'm going to get rid of B. I don't think that's a good fit, leaving me with just a couple more answers here. A biological, chemical, or physical agent that is reasonably likely to cause illness or injury in the case of control. Okay, I'm a little questionable on that. To me, that kind of sounds like a hazard, like a kind of chemical hazard is when chemicals come into contact with food. I don't think a critical control point is about biological, chemical, or physical agents that are going to cause illness. It's more about the step itself. So I'm going to get rid of C. Finally, procedures following when a deviation occurs. That was just going to be our corrective actions we did whenever we found our refrigerator was not correct. So that's going to mean a step at which control can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. That is known as a critical control point there. One more here, nice easy one to finish with. What is the danger zone for food storage and cooking? Is it A, 41 to 70 degrees, B, 70 to 140, C, 41 to 140, or D, 41 to 135? Again, which one's the danger zone? Well, just a little clue for you when I try to teach these. We learn about what we should minimum cooking temperatures for a lot of our hot foods, our meats, our veggies, things like that. And if you recall, we could cook our mashed potatoes, our green beans to 135. So that's about my maximum level of the danger zone. Because danger zone is all about where bacteria loves to grow. And bacteria loves to grow within this certain little zone here. So I know my top is going to be 135. A lot of times we used to say 40 to 140. That was commonly what the danger zone is. But per food code, it's actually to 135. That's the actual number. 40 to 140, you can tell your friends though. So for danger zone, 41 to 70, that is in the danger zone, but that's not the total danger zone because it's going to go all the way to 135. I'm going to eliminate A there. B is 70 to 140. Well, no, that's not a good fit because the danger zone is, what about that 41 to 70 area? That's also important. So it's not going to be B. C is 41 to 140. Oh, it's so close. It's like that 40 to 140 I told you. But remember, per food code, we can cook our potatoes to 135. 140 is not the minimum cooking temperature. And then finally D, 41 to 135. That's my best fit. That is my danger zone there. So I hope you enjoyed those questions to really get down that HACCP plan a little bit. But today on the What's Eating You segment, I wanted to talk a little bit about making your own hummus at home. I've been trying to save money for groceries, so I'm shopping a little less at Jewel Osco, which is here in Illinois, and I'm shopping a lot more at Aldi, or Aldi's as people always say, which my partner, she really is not appreciating that because she loves Jewel Osco. She wants to get our stuff there, which I totally get. But I'm just trying to be choosy about the stuff I can buy at Aldi to like save some money. Plus I like, the shopping experience, and I love grocery stores, so I'm always good to go there. Now I just bought some hummus there at Aldi, and if not to hate on Aldi, but you're definitely going to get a couple products there that you're probably not that impressed with. And sometimes for me it's the meats, like ground meat or something like that. But for this time it was definitely their hummus. Their hummus just wasn't the certain way that I like it. I like it to be a bit thicker, less of creaminess is not what I'm going for. I don't want it to look like salad dressing kind of. I want it to be a little thicker type thing and filling. So I thought it'd be better just to make my hummus at home again, just like I used to. I have a Vitamix, and Vitamixes are so great at blending up and pureeing foods. Definitely a must-have for someone who's on a pureed diet. When you're making your own hummus, it's really a couple simple ingredients, one of which you can take a can of drained chickpeas. Some people will take off that outer coating of the chickpea. If you're feeling lazy, you might just rinse them and try to run them through your hands a little bit to release that. So we're going to add probably that whole can of drained chickpeas, and then we're going to add, I'd say 2 tablespoons to a quarter cup of olive oil to kind of add that richness. Then we're going to add tahini. Usually, if I recall, it was about a half cup would do pretty well. And tahini is kind of that sesame seed type oil consistency that we're going to add to hummus, and that's what helps to make hummus there as well. Then we're probably going to add a little bit of lemon juice, and lemon juice is going to really help bring out that flavor there, make it pop. Or people will add roasted red peppers to kind of also add type of flavor, or hot sauce to it if they want to really make it taste differently. But I tend to go with just straight lemon juice to use that there. And then a lot of the seasonings that I've seen used a lot of time is I've seen a little bit of cumin, turmeric, paprika, salt, pepper, and then either dried or freshly chopped parsley as well. So that's just my thoughts on I'm going to start doing my own at-home hummus, save a little money there, and get it to more of a consistency I want. But that's going to cook it up for the Diet NPO podcast today. I appreciate it if you stuck around this whole time. Remember, you can always contact me if you need a great RD exam tutor or someone just to help get some advice from. Follow me on Instagram, Zach_snacks. Rate and review, please. And hey, have a great day.